On the 31st of May 2014, we as SGS had another amazing opportunity to return back to the notorious Woodchester Mansion. Every single time the place delivers as far as activity, especially when we previously encountered that incredible growl or that roar that we'll all never forget. So as you can imagine, our adrenaline was pumping and we couldn't wait to get back there. So this video is going to be quite a short video. I'm not going into a full explanation of a summary of our investigation. However, I think it's this piece alone, this one piece of evidence, is worthy a video review of itself, just because of the nature as to what it is, how different, unusual, how rare, and in my opinion, how incredible and fascinating this is. So let's get straight into it and let me show you what I'm referring to. So before the actual investigation took place, we as the team kind of went into the building in Woodchester Mansion just to check the building, make sure everything's okay, do a few health and safety checks, etc. before we opened the doors to the other members and the investigation started. So what I do before any investigation is that I'll go around the location or the building, etc., and just take a few photos of the building itself, not investigating as such or anything like that. It's mainly because if I'm lucky enough to do an evidence review like this, where we've picked up evidence to do a YouTube review, I can use those photos as a bit of a slideshow in the background as I'm kind of talking over and everything else. So the whole purpose of me walking around the building was to snapping a few photos so that I could use, hopefully, to do an evidence review video. So the photo that you're looking at now is exactly how that I wanted the photo to look, whereas I took the photo and I had a building shot where you can see the whole kind of stone corridor as such, whereby you can see that arched window in the background showing you the building itself, so you have an idea of what Woodchester Mansion is, how it looks, etc., if you've never been there before. So that's what I wanted. However, I didn't quite get that as I took the photo. So the photo that you're looking at now is my first photo that I had taken at the time. Now, what happened, just literally, it was so bad timing, because literally just as I took the photo, you could see one of the investigators to the left, the bottom left hand side. He stepped out from the doorway just as I took the photo, and towards the back of the photo on the right hand side, you can see one of the other team, the lady, she kind of stepped out of the doorway again. It was just so bad timing, and of course I had them in the frame and my shot as I took the photo, which that's what I didn't want. So I waited for them to go, I explained that I was taking photos, etc., and then I retook the photo, which is again what you're looking at now. So this was the ideal shot that I wanted, but of course this is the one that I took, which was the first one. So that, I didn't think anything about it at the time, I was just taking photos, etc., etc. And it was only until that I got in the car to go home that I was quickly flicking through the photos on the camera just to see what photos I'd taken. I thought that I'd seen something really odd on that one particular photo, and you've probably spotted it already. So when I zoomed in on the actual photo in question, this is what I saw. I know it looks really weird as to what it actually is. Looking at it, what I can make out is it's a shadow figure of a person. Why you may think it's got one leg, as to the assumption that I have as to what it is, I don't know. For me, my interpretation of what that is that it's a solid black mass, shadow figure, and it looks like it's holding some or carrying something, whether it could be some type of jacket, some type of cloak, some type of cape, or whatever, and the way that it stood, it looks as if it's got one leg. Now, it's really, really bizarre as to what this is. I will just quickly mention something, that I spoke to the lady that the shadow figure is next to. She can't remember anybody else being there at all at the time, and doesn't recollect that at all. But the most validating and important point of all this for me is this. The point is that let's just hypothetically say that was a person, that was somebody else in the building at the time, etc. If that person was stood at the end of that corridor, and I could physically see them, which there's no doubt that I would have done, because I seen the lady come out and the figure is right next to the lady. So I would have definitely seen some person there. The point about this is that I would not have taken the photo because I wanted a clear shot, a building shot like the one you're looking at now, where I didn't want anybody in the photo at all. I just needed a building shot. So if I had seen somebody there walking up, I'd have deliberately waited for them to go before I took the photo. The only people that I 100% seen at that time was the two investigators step out of the doorways and into my shot. And then I explained to them, look guys, I'm taking photos. I waited for them to leave the room, and then I retook the shot, which is the one you're looking at now. So why this is on there, how this is on there, I honestly don't know. As much as I try to debunk and have tried to debunk and go through the whole motion of taking these photos again, setting things up, trial and experimenting to try and duplicate how that could be on there, I honestly can't, and I still can't. I have no explanation as to why that is on there. The only conclusion that I can put this down to is being as cynical as I'm trying to be without calling it paranormal. I genuinely can't find any logical explanation. I've looked at exposure, light exposure, and creating a shadow off. I've looked into all that. I've trialed it. I've experimented it. I've spoke to specialists as to could this have happened, etc. And there's not any way logically that why that would be on there. So for that reason, and amongst everything that I've looked into, I feel that I can put this down to it being paranormal. The other kind of interesting and again validating thing about this as well is that I sent this photo off to a friend of mine who has got quite high-tech spec analysis equipment as far as photos and everything else. And the interesting thing that he's come back with is this. The photo you're looking at now, he's broken this down and he's looked at it, and what you can actually see that shadow figure as far as it being a transparent figure, because you can clearly see behind it, or through it, of a better word, that the wall, the window ledge, the window, you can see through that actual figure. The point I'm trying to make is that if this was a solid person or a solid figure or something like that, you would not be able to see through it and behind it. It's physically impossible. That wouldn't have happened. Likewise, you can, which is quite nice actually, you can see the lady stood next to the figure. She is that solid person which you cannot see through, which is a perfect comparison actually as to what I'm referring to. So that is going in favour again as to how strange this anomaly is, this figure, this shadow figure is, for that reason going through. The other thing I want to touch up as well on is look at the colour, look at the solid mass colour of this figure itself. It's one solid colour. There is no shading in it at all. So let's just say it was a person and they were completely wearing all black clothing, for instance. The colour black has multiple shades of black, whereas you would definitely see a distinction in that colour shading of black, whether it be the shoes, the trousers, the jacket, whatever, even as far as going up towards the head, the hair, whatever. But the point is that whole figure is one of the same colour of the shading, and that's a solid black mass. However, not solid enough because of that transparency that you're now able to see through it upon further analysis and examination. Something else to touch upon as well is notice how the way it is stood. You can see, as we're looking at it, you can see the left leg. Look at the angle that it's positioned at. It's as if it's leaning. So talking about from a gravity perspective, you would have needed to have had another leg on the floor to stop you from falling over. That's just natural. If you try and stand on one leg, there's no way that that would happen, especially the way that it is at an angle. It's not even straight, so it's not as if it's a straight and somebody is just stood on one leg and their leg is kind of bent up and you can't see it. The way that it's angled and stood, a person, a normal human being, would have had to have fallen over on the floor. So that again is really odd. You also probably noticed that kind of shadowy effect under it, under where the leg is supposed to be. That's not on the other photo, as you can see now, and the photos were literally taken a few seconds apart from each other. So what that shadowy figure is, that spiral shadowy figure, there's a theory by some other fellow investigators that are saying that this figure is kind of self-manifesting, and I've caught this figure in the process of manifesting, and that what you're seeing is the effect of the manifestation of the other leg coming to appear and manifesting. I don't know. It's really odd, really strange, but so interesting and fascinating for me to look at it, whereas I can 100% tell you that if it was a person, forget about it being not paranormal. If it was a person, one of us, one of the team, I would have waited for them to have gone, and I wouldn't have taken that photo because I wanted a clear shot. So with everything combined, as far as the transparency of it, the shading of what it is, that strange figure of it just having that one leg, that kind of cape or whatever is being held onto it, there's so many things that I am putting this down to paranormal, because like I said, as much as I've tried to debunk this and reenact this to get this to replicate, I honestly can't, and it's such an incredible photo that we've caught. To also help validate how I'm claiming this as being paranormal, there's so many reports of shadow figures being seen at Woodchester Mansion, tall black shadow figures. There's so many reports out there from other investigators coming to investigate, so that just ties in with the whole paranormal claims as well. So just before I end this kind of talk on this figure, I'm just going to throw something out there just for something for you to think about. As crazy as this possibly may sound, when I mention this, you may look at this in a complete different light. One investigator has said to me they don't think that it's a person stood on one leg. What they're saying that it might be, from what they can see, is that it could be a person on a horse. Okay, so I know that sounds a bit crazy at first, but if you look at it, it could be that coat or that cloak or whatever it looks like that it's carrying, imagine that being the head of the horse, and where this person is sat on, then what you're seeing is the horse's leg. Okay, and that could possibly make sense or logic as far as the thinness of the leg being a horse rather than a person, and the very bottom of it possibly the hoof, and there is a person sat on it. It's sat on a horse, and I don't know. I know it's a strange theory, and but I'm just throwing it out there for you to think about, because it's certainly making me think about it as well. So I hope that this has given you some type of interest as to seeing what has been captured on photo as far as evidence. It's very rare that we get photos like this, and I've certainly probably one of the best photos that I've seen personally, and I'm so lucky that I've managed to capture this at the right time, be at the right place at the right time, I guess. But thanks very much for watching this video, and I hope you've liked this photo, as weird and as strange as this is. And next time we investigate, I'm hoping to catch something like this again, hopefully, this time maybe on video camera as well.